Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, DearJames, and together with the unseen, Spirit, Source, and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insights, and we go as guided. And par for the course, today's energies, this Leo full moon that has a fixed T-square in it. And at the apex of that T-square is Uranus, of course, the planet of the higher mind, but also expect the unexpected. So let's jump in and start rocking with these energies because there's a lot to cover. So main energies, it's February, so it's a 2-month. It's the receptive, the divine feminine, to reflect. It means look inside. 12 is standstill, release. And this is very on par for this fixed T-square with the full moon, because it's about releasing energies, things that have come to a point. 9, small restraints, surrender. Welcome, Alicia. They culminate in a 14, which is about great possessing, shine. We are meant to shine our light. We possess such greatness, and yet for the most part, we hide our light under a bushel basket. Well, no longer, no more. And number 5 is nourished while waiting, patience. It's to remember that we always have everything we need as we need it in the moment. Now, as we look at the astrological influences, let's see what's going on astrologically. And this is going to play, you're going to see how we're working with air, swords, and this collision course, but I'll get to that in a minute. So here, Uranus is direct, Jupiter is now direct, Neptune is still conjunct the North Node. We have the Sun, Mercury, Cazimi, meaning the Sun and Mercury were together, conjunct. And then, of course, today, the 12th, Leo full moon, with this fixed T-square where Uranus is at the apex. The themes for the astrological influences is air, and then drama, defiance, disruptions. Because again, remember, this fixed T-square, things are coming to a head. The pressure has to be released. So there's drama, defiance, disruptions, and then this air element. And before I go, and forgive my voice, I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold, but anyways, moving along and moving through. Let's just take a quick look because we're talking about it. This is from Pam Youngin's North Point Journal, and she's talking about the full moon, and she's saying this full moon forms a stressful T-square configuration with other planets, so we'll be facing some important challenges this week. Along the way, we will likely see demonstrations of the shadow side of Leo the lion. And it's why Leo? Because it's a Leo full moon. And she's talking about self-absorption, a demand for attention, pride, and arrogance, overly dramatic behaviors, temper tantrums, and attempts to dominate others. Welcome, Olivia. So this full moon T-square literally it's the sun and Mercury are on one side, they're opposite the moon on the other, and then it makes like a triangle. I'm going to show you this in a minute. And at the apex, at the top, is Uranus. And Pam Youngins is saying T-squares represent times of pent-up energy, tension, and frustration. All the planets involved are at cross purposes to each other, so there is a buildup of pressure. Since this is a fixed T-square with the planets in tenacious fixed signs, we will be working with a battle of wills, attachment to the status quo, possessiveness, and a stubborn inflexibility. With Uranus at the apex, it is at that all-important point which places it in the position of power in the configuration. With sideways spinning Uranus holding the reins, change can occur despite the resistance. Uranus is the wild card planet, often manifesting through unexpected, sudden, eruptive, earthquake-like events. Under its influence, we are likely to see irrational or rebellious behaviors. Cracks in the foundation are revealed. So we have this Leo full moon, a fixed T-square, and Uranus is at the apex. And so again, astrological influences, this air element, drama, defiance, and disruptions. Now, why air? Well, take a look here. Look at the inner circle, and this is the Leo full moon astrological chart. And you see the large red triangle, and then you see the blue line cutting through the top of it. That is the alchemical symbol for air. And you see that the tip, the point of the triangle, is pointing right at Uranus. And so that instantly said to me, air. Air, the element of air, is playing a role. And so before we get to our main theme, I want to go to the air element, just so we're going to set the stage. So remember, air, swords, collision course. So this is from Bernadette King on buildingbeautifulsouls.com. Air represents new life, power of the mind, and communication. And this is one of our first quotes by John F. Kennedy. We all breathe the same air. One could say we all bleed the same blood, but this is we all breathe the same air. And the element of air is a powerful teacher and divination tool. In Western esoteric and New Age traditions, the entirety of the world's energy has 5 associated elements, namely earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, known as ether. Each of these elements has specific vibrations and characteristics. The air element corresponds to the eastern part of creation. It symbolizes in that eastern part of creation. It's going to be important coming up with collision course. It symbolizes a vast network of vital breath, from the winds that brought the universe into being to the first cry of a newborn baby or first breath of life, known as Om. Where earth is fixed, air is most definitely fluid, movable. It's also connected to the mind, wisdom, spirits, and the soul. Classical Greek philosophy separated the air element into atmosphere, where we live, and a higher region above the clouds. When they wrote about air, it was about the lower form versus ether, something filled with light energy. In sacred geometry, the symbol for air is the octahedron, cementing the air element between fire and water alchemically. And we've been talking about air over water for a few shows now. This means that air energy can work with fire or water, and it can also become an intermediary or bridge between the two. In Hindu writings, the word for wind is Veda, which means to blow. There is also a second word, prana, that symbolizes the breath of life. Prana is the Father God, and his breath is one of the 5 sacred elements in this religious tradition. The element of air is an excellent representation of spiritual faith. Air reminds us that there is much more to this world than what we can see and teaches us that we must grow and change as the world does likewise. Air, and more specifically the wind, appears in a variety of divination systems. From observing how the winds move the clouds or trees to holding a handful of dirt to the breeze and seeing what pattern it forms, air carries a message. So this Leo full moon, this fixed T-square with the apex at Uranus, air carries a message. It's going to carry a very powerful, disruptive, in-your-face message or messages. The Chinese, Greeks, and Romans all listened to the wind and paid attention to what direction it comes. Winds arriving from the south and east portend good things. Sudden alteration in wind direction likewise predicts transformation or change, not all of which is good. The voice of the wind matters. It is gentle. Is it gentle or angry? Native Americans and Aborigines use wind divination as a means of receiving messages from the divine. In the tarot, the wind element is represented by the suit swords. And let me just bring this up really quickly. Swords. And so in the center, we have the Ace of Swords. On the left is the King of Swords. On the right is the Queen of Swords. So here in tarot, the element that represents air is swords. As a mantra, the swords suit says, divide and organize, or divine and inspire. Swords, like the air element, often symbolize an epiphany, the proverbial aha, of our mental processes. The suit of swords is all about clearing out clutter, leaving the path ahead clear. The counsel of the sword is that our opinions and thoughts, particularly when they manifest in word or deed, may bear two edges. So swords are about clarity, truth, cutting through the minutia, the illusion. And so here we have this air element we have that's associated with this Leo full moon. And then swords. And when I was looking at the astrological chart for the Leo moon, I'm just bringing it up again really quickly, and I saw and immediately this air kept coming back. And then, of course, and that's when I heard collision course. And so I sat with it. I knew exactly what they meant, the unseen, but I was like, okay, collision course. But before we get to that, here's collision course, a vast demonstration of choice. This is our main theme. And so skunk medicine, and I loved that. I giggled with skunk medicine, but it's collision course, a vast demonstration of choice. And then it was almost like of choices made. So it's both in the present and the past tense. So in essence, what are the choices we're making in the moment, in the present moment? And what is that culmination of all the choices we've made to this point, individually, collectively? So collision course, a vast demonstration of choices made, skunk medicine. And collision, a course or path that, if unchanged, will lead to a collision with another object. Going in a direction that will lead to a collision with another moving object, person, event, or tragedy. And then demonstration, because there was an emphasis on the word a vast demonstration. So it's about collision, this collision course, and a vast demonstration. An occasion when a group of people march or stand together to show that they disagree with or support something or someone. The action or process of showing the existence or truth of something by giving proof or evidence. So this can be both protest, demonstration, but it can also be the process of showing that something exists, truth. There's air, swords, clarity, Uranus, expect the unexpected. And so we have this aspect where these are this confluence of events and elements that are coming together. And I just want to go quickly to our mantra. Our mantra is, I am the light I seek. So as we're looking at a big energy moment here that's going to arc out, again, it's got a 6-month window. So is it most intense at the time of the lunation, the full moon today? Yes. However, the energies will arc out. But our mantra is, I am the light I seek. Air, swords, air representing listening to the divine, messages from the divine, from the unseen, swords, clarity, cutting through. And we had that, remember, this was our divine intervention, the age of Aquarius, clarity, resistance, and renewal. It was back on the 29th of January. So you can see how the unseen is threading these themes together for us as an ongoing, continuing journey. Well, let's get to the meat of the story. Let's get to the actual collision course. And this, because when that came, this collision course, a vast demonstration of choice. And then I had this awareness that it had to do with Master Jesus. And so I'm going to back up before we go to collision course, because the first thing that the unseen said, they said, the time for peace is over. Now that's a very powerful statement. The time for peace is over. And then they said, all hands man your battle stations. And then I remembered hearing this about Master Jesus didn't come for peace. He came with the sword. I'm paraphrasing, so let me give it to you in its perfected state. In Matthew 10:34, Jesus says, do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. Sword, air, this Leo full moon, Leo, the house of Judah, Master Jesus, the lion. This verse is often interpreted to mean that Jesus' teachings will sometimes cause division and conflict within families and communities, as people may choose to follow him over their own family members should their beliefs differ. Some scholars also see the sword as a metaphor for the spiritual battle against evil forces that Jesus came to confront. Context is key. While this verse seems violent, it's crucial to understand the broader context of Jesus' teachings, which emphasize love, forgiveness, and nonviolence. The sword is not meant to be a literal weapon, but a symbol of the disruptive power of Jesus' message. He was speaking truth to power, to the religious power, those in power, to the Roman Empire power, and he came with a very simple, pure message. Love. Go direct to the Father. We don't need intermediaries. Certainly not if they are, in essence, corrupt. With all hands man your battle stations. In the U.S. Navy, when you hear the phrase general quarters, all hands man your battle stations over the ship's loudspeaker, something life-threatening is possible. When this announcement is made, sailors quickly grab their survival gear and head to a specific location on the ship where they await further instruction. Routinely, there are general quarter drills. However, sometimes a catastrophic problem has to be managed or the ship is at risk of going down. The message is be prepared, be ready. So the unseen is saying to us, the time for peace is over. All hands man your battle stations. And then this Master Jesus saying, I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. The sword represents divine wisdom, messages from the divine, and it represents divine clarity, truth, purity, cutting through the minutia. So now let's connect these events, this Leo full moon, the fixed T-square with Uranus at the apex, with collision course. And this is an excerpt from a March 2007 article in ChristianCentury.org by Marcus J. Borg and John Dominic Crossan. What, according to Mark, the book of Mark, what, according to Mark, was Jesus' intention for that week in Jerusalem, which turned out to be his last one on earth? Jesus went to the capital city of his people to confront Roman imperial power and religious collaboration with it. He did so from out of the heart of Judaism and in the name of the kingdom of God as God's passion for this earth. We begin with Palm Sunday. 2 processions entered Jerusalem at the beginning of the week of Passover. This is 2,000-ish years ago. So 2 processions entered Jerusalem at the beginning of the week of Passover, a tinderbox time in the city, with the Jewish people celebrating divine deliverance from the past Egyptian empire while under the present Roman Empire. 2 very large and very lethal riots took place precisely at Passover in the generations before and after 30 CE. And so, at each Passover, the Roman governor, Pilate in the time of Jesus, rode up to Jerusalem from the imperial city Caesarea on the coast at the head of a cohort of imperial cavalry and troops to reinforce the Roman garrison in Jerusalem as a deterrent against and preparation for any possible trouble. So here they are. They're coming into the city at this time to reinforce their power, their control, the subjugation of the Israelites. Pilate's procession, arriving from the west, symbolized and actualized Roman imperial power. Jesus entered the city from the east, air, the winds from the east. So Jesus entered the city from the east in another procession, a counter procession. Whereas Pilate rode into the city on a war horse, Jesus entered on a donkey. Mark makes it clear, the book of Mark makes it clear that Jesus planned it in advance. He tells the disciples to go into a village to get a donkey and says, quote, "If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' just say this, 'The Lord needs it and will send it back here immediately.'" Implicitly in Mark 11:1-11 and explicitly in Matthew 21:4-5, the symbolism makes use of Zechariah 9:9-10, which speaks of a king of peace on a donkey who will banish the war horse and battle bow from the land. The contrast is clear. Jesus versus Pilate. The nonviolence of the kingdom of God versus the violence of empire. 2 arrivals, 2 entrances, 2 processions. And our Christian Lent is about repentance for being in the wrong one and preparation to abandon it for its alternative. It's about which side of history are you standing on? And we've been talking about this for so long in Weekly Wisdom and Insights. You know, all the way back to the Great American Eclipse, we're drawing a line in the sand. You're being seen. You're being counted. What's at your center? And here it is about that Lent is about repentance for Christians and so forth. For Lent, Catholicism, it's about repentance for being in the wrong one, in the wrong procession, and preparation to abandon it for its alternative. So it's literally the unseen God versus empire. Manly creation, earthly creation. So on Monday, Jesus' demonstration against Roman imperial power and violence is matched by one against the temple authorities, their role in the imperial domination system. Since 6 CE, they had collaborated with Rome as the rulers of Judea, a collusion that submitted God's temple to Roman control. Once again, the demonstration is very deliberate. Sunday evening, Master Jesus, he had entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12 apostles. You do not conduct public demonstrations late in the evening when few people are present to see you or protect you. He waited until the next day to overturn the tables. This demonstration, like the first one, echoes the Jewish prophets. Jeremiah had warned that worshiping God as a substitute for enacting God's justice had turned God's temple into a den of robbers, a cave of violent ones. Because at this point, they had corrupted the purity of the institution of the house of God. And in that, Master Jesus tossed all of the tables, the money lenders and so forth, because it had corrupted it. And this is when he's saying to the people, and he says to the Pharisees and so forth, you block the people from what is rightly theirs, meaning God. And so his message has always been, go direct to the Father. However you ascribe in the Christian terminology, it's about going to the Father, going to source, to the all that is, to the one. And that we have that within us. It's innate within us. It cannot be separated from us. And for us to not substitute that for external human, man-made creations or leaders, certainly and especially when they seek to oppress and suppress and corrupt. This is when we want to be on the right side of history. This is when we want to hold true to our faith meaning goodness, love, light, kindness, service. They go on to say, on Tuesday, the longest day of the week in Mark's account, Jesus is engaged in a series of conflict stories with the temple authorities and their representatives, ending with, quote, the little apocalypse in Mark 13, in which Jesus warns of the coming destruction of the temple. Throughout this day, as on Sunday and Monday, the authorities want to arrest Jesus and have him executed for what he is doing. But he is safely protected by having the crowd on his side. This is about the masses. This was already clear from the enthusiastic support of many people on Palm Sunday in Mark 11, 8, 10. It continues on Monday after the temple incident. When the chief priests and the scribes heard it, they kept looking for a way to kill him, for they were afraid of him because the whole crowd was spellbound by his teaching. He was speaking truth to them. He was speaking to their soul, and they were hearing it. They knew that it resonated truth. Air, swords, clarity, truth, direct connection. And lest hearers or readers forget, the protective support of, quote, the crowd against their high priestly rulers is reiterated 3 times on Tuesday. So those that seek to harm him are being prevented from doing so because of the masses. We, the people, the Aquarian age, the matriarchal era, we, the people, hold the power. And when we are unified, those, quote, in power are prevented, are afraid. They're prevented from enacting or doing because the masses, there's more of us than them. So they were afraid of the crowd, for all regarded John as truly a prophet. When they realized that he had told this parable against them, they wanted to arrest him, but they feared the crowd. So they left him and went away. And the large crowd was listening to him with delight. On Wednesday, in Mark's story, the authorities give up. It was 2 days before the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him For they said, "Not during the festival, or there may be a riot among the people." After the festival, of course, Jesus would presumably return to Galilee. The protective pro-Jesus crowd works as he intended, and the risk of a riot among them is too dangerous for the anti-Jesus authorities to arrest him publicly. That is, within the narrative logic of Mark's story, why Judas is so necessary in 14:10-11. He goes to the authorities and offers to locate Jesus at night and apart from the crowd so that he can be captured quietly and dispatched speedily. On Thursday, Jesus shares a final meal with his followers. Judas leaves in the middle of it. Afterward, they go to the Garden of Gethsemane. Now, this is to remember as well that Jesus said to them, the 12 apostles at the Last Supper, I believe by nightfall, one of you will betray me. So he was aware of the fact this was going to happen. So Judas, the traitor, he's been portrayed as the traitor, leads the temple police to the garden, and there in the dark, Jesus is arrested. Then he is brought before the authorities for a speedy hearing and condemned to death. On Friday morning, as Jesus stands before Pilate, a second crowd appears in Mark's narrative. It is already quite clear in Mark that, quote, all the people, or the Jews, are not against Jesus. But what about the crowd on Friday in Mark 15:6-9? This is a crowd gathered in Pilate's courtyard, to which ordinary people, the crowd of the previous days, the masses, would not have had access. It would have been a small crowd of supporters of the authorities, perhaps a few dozen people. You see that those that are complicit, those that are effectuating and wanting to hold on to power, fearing for their power, their authority. And they're fearing it because Master Jesus is awakening the masses. He's inspiring them to hear God, source, the all that is, the unseen, your soul source connection. This is the crowd that calls for Jesus' crucifixion, the smaller crowd, not the crowds who had heard Jesus gladly earlier in the week. How does Mark's story end? Jesus is put to death by imperial power. Jesus is raised from death by divine power. The authorities said no to Jesus and his passion for the kingdom of God and killed him. But death was not the end. God vindicated Jesus and thus said no to the powers that killed him. God, therefore, is on a collision course with empire, as always and ever throughout the biblical tradition. 2,000 plus years later, we are at the end of the patriarchal Piscean era. We are at the beginning, the entrance to the Aquarian matriarchal era. And it's as true today as it was 2,000 years ago at the time of Master Jesus. God, therefore, is on a collision course with empire. Do we do what's right? Do we do what we know to be true and correct, good? Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love thy God above all other. Be a good human. Collaborate with others. Cooperate. And there's so much where I already hear this, oh, that's so idealistic and that's so happy hooey and all of this stuff. All because why? Choosing the lesser path, the path of evil, is easier. And yet it goes against who we are. It is our least angel, not our greatest angel. So they conclude this with, we ponder all of this very deeply during Lent, when liberals sadly and conservatives gladly proclaim our America not only as an empire, but as the new Roman Empire. And we also meditate about this. The Jewish historian Josephus's Jewish Antiquities summarizes the execution of Jesus by saying, quote, Pilate, upon hearing him accused by men of the highest standing amongst him, the Pharisees, the temple priests, had condemned him to be crucified. But Mark adds something else. In his account, it took a Roman governor named Pilate, an aristocratic high priest named Caiaphas, and a Christian traitor named Judas to effect Jesus' execution. There are many examples throughout history where it was not one person. It was all of those that supported that collaborated in darkness, evil. It was not just one. The moral of all of this, which is part of this article, is whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all. So also, whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. That is also how Paul understood dying and rising with Jesus to live as a new creation within this aging world. See, it's about love and humility and service. Those in positions of power, whether it be industry, business, government, institutions, whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. They must serve the people. And whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave to all. Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all. It's noblesse oblige. The royalty had an obligation to their constituents. Welcome, Kiki. And so this message has not changed. The humility demonstrated by Master Jesus 2,000 years ago, and the arrogance of the empire and the institutions that there's a word I'm looking for. It's the negative word, but in this collaboration. And we're seeing this on the world stage today. And yet it's number 6 from the unseen. They said everything is purposeful, even and especially the regretful. And then they said it need not be this way. So this is a collision course, a vast demonstration of choice, of choices made. This is a culmination. Here's that Leo full moon, fixed T-square with Uranus at the apex, at the tip. Expect the unexpected. All of this challenge and pent-up energy and aggression, and where people are following blindly their shadow. This is a wake-up call. It's number 3 from the unseen. Tipping point. We're at a tipping point. And they said, a colossal wake-up call. And colossal, extremely large. It's magnified, it's amplified, it's in your face, because we're at a tipping point. And what we do in this lifetime matters. Who we align ourselves with matters. How we choose to live our lives matters. How we treat our fellow human matters. How you treat yourself matters. So, should you see or find yourself in that beautiful line about God against the empire, that this was the challenge, this was what was happening. But God prevails. God always prevails. And I'm using God as the term so that higher power, source, the all that is, prevails. It's number 5 from the unseen. They said Pharaoh failed. And they're talking about Ramesses II. He was the Pharaoh at the time of Exodus. So Pharaoh failed. The Roman Empire failed. Hitler failed. The British Empire, in terms of America and India and so forth, failed. It became a commonwealth. So it became a commonwealth, meaning it changed itself from an oppressive state to a commonwealth of countries. Let us collaborate. Let us come together. Let us celebrate the best of us. So they're saying it's number 5. It's about change. Pharaoh failed. The Roman Empire failed. Hitler failed. The British Empire, in terms of America and India, failed. They said there are numerous examples. And then they said evil's moment in the sun is exactly that, momentary. So evil's moment in the sun is exactly that, momentary. And it brings me to our key word, which is reckoning. And reckoning and accounting as for things received or done. The time when your actions are judged as good or bad and you are rewarded or punished. The act of judging something. So all of these energies were crescendoing, and I understand this is a heavy topic, a big one. It carries a lot of weight and reference and so forth. But they're reminding us, the unseen is reminding us over and over and over again to choose to be on the right side of history, to be on the right side, the side of God, if you will, not empire. To be on the right side, to be on the side of service and humility, grace, love, kindness, generosity. To be on that side of history. Because the other side, historically, routinely, fails. It may not look like it in that given moment, but inevitably, the weight of its shadow, the weight of its illicitness causes it to collapse. Because it's people's complicity. That was the word I was looking for. Complicit. When you're complicit, it's not a good thing. It is not a positive word to be complicit. And one person alone doesn't achieve this. It's all of those that are complicit. So again, there's a collision course, a vast demonstration of choice, of choices made. Skunk medicine. Let's move to skunk medicine because it's so good. I thought I giggled. As you can see, it's some levity because here's skunk medicine. So in spiritual terms, skunk as a medicine animal signifies the ability to set strong boundaries, defend yourself with confidence, and be unapologetically yourself, even when misunderstood, essentially embodying quiet power and self-respect without needing aggression, much like the skunk's warning spray when threatened. So see, skunk medicine is all about self-value, self-worth, being unapologetically yourself, having self-confidence, and being able to do so without aggression. We don't need to scream it. Leo the lion is the head of the pride. It's the king of the jungle. He doesn't have to roar. He just is. Now, he will when he needs to. The skunk will spray you when it needs to. But otherwise, it's a happy little creature going about its business. Skunks teach that true strength comes from knowing your own value and respecting your own boundaries, not from outward displays of aggression. By not trying to conform, a skunk encourages embracing your unique qualities and being true to who you are, even if it means others might not understand. Just as a skunk will warn before using its spray, This medicine can represent the importance of clearly communicating your needs and limits to others. Air, swords, clarity, truth, empowerment, soul source connection. It's about communicating. The skunk's spray is a powerful defense mechanism, mirroring the ability to stand up for yourself and protect your space when necessary. Despite having a potent defense, skunks are generally docile creatures, highlighting the power of inner strength without needing to be outwardly aggressive. See, it just is. I am. It just is. We are innately divine and powerful and empowered. All we need to do is be clear, state our truth, and do so in a way and that's respectful. And should somebody infringe upon us, spray them. That's just as simple as it gets. Yes, Little Skunk has teachings to share with us as a Native American totem. This medicine or lesson to be learned from this little creature is reputation and respect. It is a message with a great deal of power. Now this continues and it comes from nativeamericantotems.com. Skunk is unlike other predatory animals in that it does not threaten your life, but your senses. If you were to observe skunk in the wild, you would notice it has a playfulness about it, with an attitude of, I dare you. This little creature commands that you respect its space by the sheer reputation of what it can do. It's silent empowerment. It's silent self-confidence. It just exudes it. People can see. And when they deign to cross the line, set them straight. I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to be clear with you. And here's my boundaries and so forth. Ah, you're not listening? Spray them. That simple. Skunk feels that you have, I dare you, this little creature commands that you respect its space by its sheer reputation of what it can do. If it feels that you have stepped too far into his or her territory, you will wish that you had not invaded that space. Brother Sister Skunk teaches us that by walking our walk and by respecting ourselves, we can create a position of strength and an honored reputation. The way we carry our bodies relates to the people around us and what we believe about ourselves. When our sense of self is strong, there is no need to bully, torment, aggravate, or overpower the people around us. See, it's the weak parading. It's an illusion. Oh, I'm so powerful. And they're terrified. And they're certainly terrified of the masses. That's why all the bravado and all of the yelling and the screaming and the demeaning and all of this oppression and suppression, because they're terrified. They're weak. But we, the people, when we simply stand in our power, our truth, it speaks volumes. It says everything without saying a word. When our sense of self is strong, there is no need to bully, torment, aggravate, or overpower the people around us. Our self-esteem permeates our body's energy and is recognized by others on an extrasensory level. When we impart who we are without ego, respect follows. Because again, it's not the person, the greatest military person isn't the person that massacres and kills thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people. It's the one that doesn't shed a drop of blood and achieves results. There's collaboration, there's cooperation, there's intelligence and ingenuity. There's compromise, there's seeing so that the sacredness of life is not spilled, is not sacrificed. Our self-respect repels those who are not of like mind and attracts those who are walking the same pathway. Skunk uses its odor to attract its own kind and to repel those who choose to invade its space. The medicine or lesson of skunk is to learn how to handle our energy flows. This is about how we handle ourselves and what side of the line are we on, what's at our center, and then hold to it. our body language or reputation is the personal medicine that others observe. The way we use our energy will attract either honor or disgrace. What we believe about ourselves can offer great protection when we walk tall and respect ourselves and others. This is back to Master Jesus. Respect, service, humility, love, kindness, generosity. This message is coming over and over and over again. And in our second quote, failure and success come to test the depth and nature of your sincerity. It's about the depth and the nature of our sincerity. Are we going to walk the walk? Are we going to talk the talk? Are we going to stand up and speak truth to power? Are we going to do what's right and stand up for what's right? This is where Kiki is saying, well, people wake up and see they worship a false god. This is why. When you worship the empire, currency, whether it's the almighty dollar, or the almighty yen, or the almighty franc, or whatever it might be, or the almighty pound, when you worship something, when you don't realize that everything that is man-made has come from source. And when we fail, we talk about original intelligence versus artificial intelligence. People are clueless about original intelligence. Where does all of this creation, all of these advances, all of this amazing technology, all of these things, it comes from original intelligence, source. And yet, we ascribe, no, that's from me, I did it. Or no, they did it. Or no, artificial intelligence is going to be the way. It's going to know. It's artificial. It's in the name. It's not live or Memorex. It's not live. It's artificial. It's secondary. And so again, to Kiki's point, look at how when we worship in her, the false god or the wrong god, look what happens. And then all those that are complicit in it. And they do it all because what do they want? Wealth and control and power. For what? You don't take it with you. We talked about that in the last show. But what you do take with you is all of those actions, all of those thoughts, all of those words, all of those deeds. All of that is your karma, which becomes dharma. So stop and think about it. Yes, Olivia's saying at least they named AI correctly, yet they don't even see it because, again, here's this construct of somehow, the wealthiest people do you think you did this? You alone, you amassed this. Of course you didn't. That's a fallacy. It's an illusion. And here's Collision Course, a vast demonstration of choices made in skunk medicine, telling us we're at a tipping point, a colossal wake-up call. Because the time for peace is over. All hands man your battle stations. Because Master Jesus said, I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. He came to bring clarity, truth, reality, realization, a wake-up call to the people. Wake up. Go direct. And anyone that's in alignment with that, any institution, organization, religion that is in alignment with that, by all means, rejoice, celebrate, participate. However, if it's oppression, suppression, keeping you marginalized, keeping you down, keeping you restricted, blocking you, preventing you, it's not the right side of history to be on. That's empire, not God. So let's conclude with Astrology by Lauren. And actually I'm gonna do this, and then there's a couple Sabian symbols because you can't make them up if you tried. So this is Astrology by Lauren, and she says, magisterial, theatrical, and confident. This week's full moon in Leo is asking us to ride the storm of chaos and change. On January 30th, Uranus stations direct. As is the case every time Uranus stations direct, it is followed a few weeks later by a square to the sun. A square is a confrontational aspect. So we're talking about these squares. This is usually when the restlessness for change and churning creative ideas that were marinating during the retrograde phase are now ready to be unleashed. What makes this a little more volatile and erratic than usual is that this year the Sun-Uranus square is being magnified by the Leo full moon, the full moon in Leo. As a result, there's no telling what can emerge within the ambit of the full moon that follows. It's today on this Wednesday. Since last August with the full moon in Aquarius, we have had a series of full moons tied in with unpredictable Uranus. Uranus is all about change. Uranus is all about advance. It is about moving us forward. And so the most volatile of these were and are the fixed sign full moon in Aquarius on August 19th, that was of 2024, the full moon in Taurus, November 15th of 2024, this week's full moon in Leo, and the upcoming full moon in Scorpio on May 12th, 2025. Full moons are often about culminations, revelations, seeing the consequences of actions made in the past, a vast demonstration of choices made in the past. So the unseen is giving us this awareness that it's about the choices we make, a vast demonstration of choice. What are we choosing? But also of choices made, the past. And here, Astrology by Lauren is talking about how these full moons are often about culminations, revelations, seeing the consequences of actions made in the past, actions, choices made in the past, and the final end of a matter. A close square to Uranus with this week's full moon can trigger conflict and be a catalyst for sudden life events and changes. She says, however, do not be alarmed. These Uranian lunations can also bring some much overdue and often welcome changes, even amid chaotic change. Change by its nature is divine and neutral. It's just how we experience it or how we perceive it, that we judge it positive or negative. But ultimately it's divine and neutral. What is so vexing with Uranus hard aspects are their unpredictability and unexpected outcomes. So with this, it's Uranus, expect the unexpected. And so this fixed T-square is going to release tension. Uranus abhors stagnation. If we are totally resonating with the whole Uranian vibe, then we will be the ones pushing for change, raising the fields and seeding chaos in our wake. But if we are the types to languish in the comfort and predictability of the status quo, and we happen to get tagged by Uranus, that's that cosmic 2x4, that slam, it can leave an indelible mark. You'll only do it once. You'll only not listen once. Because when it knocks you down and rolls you up and spits you out, it's not pretty and it's not fun. And the entire time, you would have known to do something or not to do something, and you just didn't listen. You failed to do either of which of the two. So it leaves an indelible mark. This can feel like we have just been thrust out of the safety of our nest. We lost that job that seemed so secure. The landlord tosses us out the door. All our dreaded secrets are exposed. Yet what can be most surprising with Uranus is that even what may feel like catastrophic changes and events when Uranus comes to call can also open us up to new opportunities that we would not have previously considered. See, this is where the fear is. The patriarchal Piscean era, the rule, they're terrified. They have been in control for 2,000 plus years. And in essence, heaven forbid that a woman, a minority, a LGBTQ person, something other than themselves would have a seat at the table, would be their equal. That means I'm giving up power. That means I'm not in charge. That means I'm not dictating. but this is the end. This number 4 from the unseen, and it's number 4, it's foundational. They said, you've reached the end, ... Time for a new direction, a new pathway. So we're all individually and collectively, in our individual lives and collectively, we are being asked to look at, because we've reached the end. There is a new way, there's a new direction, there's a new era. And thus, if you're cleaving to the old, cleaving to a relationship, cleaving to, a job, cleaving to a way of life, a title, a label, an identity, if you're cleaving to it, Pharaoh failed, the Roman Empire failed, Hitler failed. There are numerous examples. This too will fail, this clinging to the old. It's going to fail, it will collapse. Why? Because it goes against God. It goes against the arc of destiny. It goes against what's before us. It's just that plain and simple. So this is a wake-up call for us to be individually and collectively, come to our truth. Are we going to walk the walk, talk the talk? Are we going to embrace the new? Because again, it's about new opportunities. Uranus brings new opportunities that we may have not previously considered. Astrology by Lauren, she concludes, and so these full moons can also be catalysts from which great movements can emerge. Positively, Uranus weather brings us the willingness to take chances, to try new things and experiment with innovative ideas. Even if we don't personally go out to seek the things of Uranus, excitement, the freedom to embark on a new path, opportunities for creative expression and greater authenticity, it finds us. See, even if we don't go looking for it, it's going to find us. It's going to come. And again, you'll know, you'll hear it. You'll know to do something or not do something. And it's just to simply walk the walk, talk the talk, use skunk medicine, butterfly medicine. We've had a lot of these beautiful animal medicines, these animal medicine totems. They are so powerful. Illuminating and inspiring, even unwelcome changes under the aegis of Uranus can bring a flash of sudden clarity and renewed motivation to make a new start. It's swords, it's air. It's clarity, it's truth, it's cutting through the illusions. Our emotions rise to the surface at the full moon. That is today, the 12th of February, 2025. So, although this moon could be very illuminating, it can be subject to impulsive actions and volatility. Therefore, wait until after the full moon to make any major decisions or have those important discussions. Uranian moons can bring out new information, and you will want to process all that before leaping in or jumping to conclusions. So in essence, sit with it. You're going to have the awareness, the knowings, or you've been knowing what to do. Allow it to sit there and then be ready to execute, ready to take action, or inaction as it may be, in the days following the full moon. Full moons are usually strongest as we approach them. Therefore, wait until after the full moon on Wednesday, the 12th of February, to make those major decisions. Start anything new or go in a new direction. So it's about waiting to make these changes and it happens. And then she concludes with this, the full moons of August 19th, 2024, November 15th, 2024, February 12th, 2025, and upcoming May 12th, 2025. With this series of Uranian full moons, rules are being broken or ignored. Plans are being disrupted. Sudden events change the landscape, and the status quo is becoming upended. However, there can also be opportunities to take a step forward even amid all the chaos. Our evolutionary growth as a humanity is riddled with growing pains right now, but which can also accompany extraordinary opportunities for growth and change. We are waking up. Wherever we see the signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius in your natal charts, you're going to receive a jolt. So what Astrology by Lauren is speaking to so eloquently and powerfully, this is there's chaos, there's confusion, there's epic change. And to the unseen's point, everything is purposeful, even and especially the regretful, meaning there's a lot of things happening around the world that are incredibly regretful. It need not be this way. However, in the dismantling, in trying to dismantle governments and institutions and this way of life, because it's from an illicit manner, it's from a shadow aspect, it's from trying to retain patriarchal power. That will be, the weight of that will be its own undoing. Because the people, the masses, 8 billion souls on the planet, the vast majority, all but the vast majority, are hardwired to proceed, to go before them, to see what's new, to keep co-creating anew. And as Astrology by Lauren said, Uranus abhors stagnation. Well, trying to go backwards, trying to stop time, that's stagnation. And Uranus abhors it. And it's the higher mind. So we are in these, as I've said, I'm going to show it again, turbulent times. There's a lot of tower moments. Be proactive, be on the positive aspect and the positive side of any tower moment you may experience. It's all about 555. It's about change. It's about the Hanged Man. It's about new perspective, seeing things anew, the butterfly, complete transformation, not just renewal, but complete transformation. And as we do so, it's the Hermit and the Star. The light in the lantern of the Hermit is the star from the star card, ruled by Aquarius. And thereby, it's going to illuminate your next steps. Take this step, go this direction, make that call. Do this, don't do that. Walk with the absolute, and skunk medicine, with all that self-confidence and ability. Walk like the Hermit, knowing that that star, the star of illumination, the Eastern Star, is the one that's guiding you forward, so that you're taking the steps and that you're on the right side of history, of time. You're on the right side. That's the bottom line. So there we are. Heavy, big show. Thank you for bearing with me. And as always, we will see what's coming up next week. Until then, be well, be kind, and be on the right side of history. Love you all.